Hi, everybody. My name's Louise and I work for AbSafe. And today I have the absolute delight in introducing one of my favourite people. This is Kelda Fasasi, and she currently is a general manager. Good morning, Kelda. How are you?
Good morning. Hi, Lou. How are you doing?
Do you know what? I'm really good. All the better for seeing you, actually. Thank you for doing this. So, my first question is tell us a bit about your job at the moment.
Yeah, so as you said in the beginning there, I'm currently a general manager. I actually work in a retirement community, and I'm based down here in the Cotswolds. Um, it's really varied, to be honest. Like every day has something different, and that's what I really like about it, because I'm not really an office-based type person, but I don't mind paperwork, if you know what I mean, and filing and kind of feeling organized. But I suppose I love being out and about. I'm really chatty, so it's a perfect role for me because I'm sure if I was left to my own devices, I'd probably talk to the wall. Um, we are, I suppose, an age exclusive development. So what happens really in our service, we sell or rent properties to people who are over 65. And, it tends to be people's last move. It tends to be, they sell their house, they move in. Um, and really, we're there, I suppose, every step of the way. And it's not like buying a house or renting a normal house, as I'll say, normal house. But it's very much it's a much slower process because it has to be right for that person. And it won't be for everyone, but it absolutely will be for some people. And I suppose I love the privilege of getting to know people because you just meet such an array of people from all sorts of walks of life. And you get to work with amazing people. You have, like literally day to day. And because we're a 24-hour, 24/7 service, I should say, it isn't like Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. So we'll do events maybe of evenings or weekends. And it's like anything, you kind of build a deeper relationship with people because you see people at all different parts of their journey. And I kind of mean that with our staff team as well. So I suppose what I love is the kind of family feel, you know, um, that kind of develops. And then as well, you have a lot of interaction into the community
Hmm.
because, we're not just a community standalone, with a gate on the front. We are a community within a community.
Yeah.
And so literally just, I love the feeling of walking up into the local town and literally, I mean, I know it sounds very cliche, but walking past the butchers and like literally sticking my head in going, morning, Bob. And literally the butcher's name is Bob, and just walking around, going up to the post office and knowing the names, it's a family run business, saying, morning, Donald, hi, Mary, how are you doing? And it's a lovely feeling. And it actually reminds me of my childhood growing up. So that was a very long-winded way of going around what I do. But there's a little bit of everything there. And the variety, I think, is great to keep the interest going, you
Yeah.
know.
So how did you get to where you are today? I think we've spoken before about we kind of you're at school, and if you could tell us a little bit about that and how you didn't give up and you kind of move forward, and so if you could explain that, that would be great, Kelda.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a journey. Like I remember in school, I actually really enjoyed school. I mean, the majority of it. I mean, I hated maths. I mean, and I was hopeless at it, absolutely hopeless. Um, but I had to work very, very hard to get fairly average, grades. And really, I suppose a lot of my strengths lay in practical things. So, even in secondary school, in transition year, obviously, you can probably tell by the accent, I grew up in Ireland. Um, and in transition year, which is like year 4 in secondary school, we were given these opportunities to, volunteer at a local hospital and hospice. And I loved it. We had an opportunity then to kind of adopt a granny or a granddad. And I suppose I had a great relationship with my own grandmother, and I adored the bones of her. And then doing this volunteering in transition year really made me think, yeah, actually, this is the career I want to get into. I didn't know whether I wanted to be a nurse or what it was, but I definitely wanted to be working closely with people. So I did my leaving cert, which is, the exams you do at the very end of secondary school. And, I'd worked really, really hard, and I gave it my best shot. My mother always said, just do your best. If you do your best, you won't have any regrets. It wouldn't matter what results, because I gave it everything. So when the results came out, my heart set on one particular course, and it was a degree course called Applied Social Studies in Social Care. But I didn't get enough points for it, and I was devastated. And I thought, what am I going to do? So how the system works is, in round one, the points come out. So in round one, I didn't get enough points. So round two kind of came out 2 weeks later, and the points on my course had dropped by around 30 points, and I was still 10 shy, 10 or 15 shy of meeting it. So I had to rethink, what am I going to do here? And actually, you get the results in July, and potentially, so at a very limited time, potentially I was going to have to start a course in the end of August, early September. So sitting down really with my parents, we looked at different potential options, and we found this lovely, it was a technical institute, so it wasn't a university or it wasn't a college, but they had a course, and I wasn't about the name. I wasn't looking for the title of the institute I was going for. I was looking at what courses are out there, and what will I actually be learning, and how long is it, and where is it, that kind of stuff. So we eventually, I really liked the sound of this course. It was called Community Care. And at the end of it, you'd get a certificate. And it was a 1-year course. And they had a number of different courses, on it. So there was things like IT, psychology, social history, an introduction to things like a work experience. After the first 2 months, you'd start a work experience, and that would be 2 days a week. So the long and the short of it was, I had to go and do an interview to get this role. So it was one of my first times really having to dress up for an interview, even though I'd had roles before. They were all very local, and I didn't truly have to do a formal interview for, it's like in the local shop and stuff like that. So that was quite nerve-wracking, really, but I gave it my all, because I really wanted this opportunity to get onto this course. So the jigs and reels of the story, I got onto the course and I loved it. I just loved it. I made some fantastic friends from parts of the country that, I'd never been to, people that I'm still friends with today. And I loved the course. And where I really excelled was in the work experience element. And I suppose that gave me confidence, because, even very early on, I had this fantastic lady who was a mentor to me, where I was doing my work experience twice a week. And she was very kind, but she didn't mince her words. So, I mean, if I was doing something wrong, as I'll say in her eyes, she'd tell me, I'd know about it. But, and in a way I wasn't used to. I didn't really grow up in that kind of a household where, things were said so straight. So that took me a while to get used to. But then I quickly realized that's far better, because I know where I stand with people. And I truly knew when she was giving me a compliment or praising me on something, I had truly achieved, that particular outcome. So I loved it. And really, the long and the short of it was, that course then led me into the next opportunity, because I did quite well on that course. I got, I think, out of 12, modules within that 1 year, I got 9 distinctions and 3 merits. And off the back of that, then it opened up the door. I was I was given an opportunity to do my degree. So then off I went to another university, and I did my degree for 4 years. And I suppose, looking back, it was an amazing experience. But, the reality, things I really struggled with was speaking in public. And I actually used to duck out of certain lectures, even if I knew it would lose me points, because there was no way I could stand up in front of, 70 or 80 people. But one lecturer there really did help me. So I did lose points in my first year because I was that shy. And I used to get red at everything, I used to go bright red at everything. But I suppose over my 4 years doing that, I won't say I was an expert, ready for Toastmasters by the end of it, not at all. But I definitely was a lot more confident to speak in smaller groups, because I was more confident in what I was saying as well, So it's been great. Yeah, it has. It's just been a natural evolution, really.
So what I'm hearing is that, sometimes we can apply our best, but we don't get the results that we need. But that doesn't, even though it can feel devastating at that moment, it is a moment. And then what we can do is gather ourselves and say, right, okay, what else can we do? And sometimes that option that you had that year, that you probably learned skills, that you probably had better skills in year one of your degree than maybe someone that hadn't done that course previously, because you had the work experience, you had the experience working with a great mentor. And I think you can't buy that. So sometimes, like you said, things will lead you to other things, and everything that you learn, you can take forward into your next position, job, career. And I know that that you have been a lifelong learner as well, that you learn, you do courses and you learn things and you take on ideas, and you do love learning now. And I have seen you speak publicly, and you're very good. So so you've definitely progressed from the shy Kelda. I think you're definitely a confident, competent public speaker. What are the struggles with the job that you do now? What are the difficulties that sometimes that you can have?
Well, I suppose there's a number of challenges, if I'm being honest, all the way through from logistical day-to-day things like, obviously it's a 24/7 service, so it's making sure that the rota is done. We tend to do the rota a month in advance. So, now we're on the 17th of February. God, can you believe that? So the 17th, so pretty much now we would have the rota done for the entire month of March. And, look, we have to be flexible. People will need time off for varying kind of things. Obviously, at the moment within COVID, it can be a real challenge because people need to quarantine. You need to think of solutions, think outside the box kind of thing. But the key element really is making sure we have that 24/7 cover all the time. So the logistics sometimes, and I suppose the other bit really then is prioritizing. And I think really, whatever role you're in, that is a work in progress. And some days I get it right and other days I don't. But for me, I think the best thing I can give people is my time. So I am aware of time, and we are on a clock and things need to be, we do have deadlines, and, sometimes people further up the chain than me will need a report, and I need to prioritize working on that and making sure, it looks good, and sending it up to them. And they might send it back saying, look, that's really great, but actually, can you put more detail into it? Or, could you maybe expand on some of your thoughts, how something might work or whatever. And I do enjoy that because it challenges your thinking. But then I suppose some other challenges really are, making sure we're doing right by people. And, sometimes it's not a challenge because it's really obvious, do the right thing, do right by people. But sometimes you do have to put a bit more thought into it because, what are the consequences of my actions? How we make people feel, making sure that people are treated fairly, and so I think just being really aware of how we are treating people and how we are, I suppose, carrying ourselves as well, But yeah, time I would say is always a challenge in my world because I joke with people I'm still on Irish time. But it is, I genuinely believe, it is the most precious commodity you can give anyone. And it's that whole thing, of, just chatting to someone for 5 minutes. even if that person has an amazing social life, you know, and we're not in lockdown and they have a really fantastic social life, you know, sometimes everything happens for a reason. You know, maybe that's all they need. And, you know, when I come home at the end of the day, there'll be things I'll go, God, I didn't get around to that, or it'll have to go on tomorrow, or tomorrow morning I'll really have to focus on this, or I wonder who else on the team could maybe help me with, because I certainly don't have every skill that's required. And that's why I need to work in a team of people that, you know, we all have different strengths. So I suppose it's understanding as well what strengths people have. So I can go, I'm hopeless at this. Can you help me?
Yeah.
You know, and not being afraid to ask for help, or feeling that, you know, I'm not worthy enough, or I shouldn't ask because of the role I'm in. I should know it all. I don't know it all, and I never will know it all. And no man is an island, kind of thing, you know. So that's what I would say to challenges, really.
Yeah, I think it is always about whoever you speak to, if give them a bit of time, but also be kind, and kindness should underpin everything that we do, even in business. And I think
For
sometimes
sure.
it can be viewed as a weakness, which it always gives me cause of, I'm not sure why, because kindness is a strength. But I think you're right. If you can be kind to people and whoever you meet, and we don't get it right all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we don't, for sure.
But to try to get it right, I think is an admirable quality. So my last question is if you had a magic wand,
Yeah.
what would you change? About anything?
Interesting. That's a really interesting question. Okay. Oh, that was a real curveball. I don't know. It's a hard one, really. I suppose one thing that, you know, sometimes what I have found in business and in working is that, you know, nothing is ever easy. You know, I mean, it just isn't. You know, it could be the simple thing of I need to do a stationery order, you know, really basic. You would just think I could log on, or, you know, walk into a shop, buy the stuff, pay, walk out, and send my expenses off to the necessary people. But it doesn't really work that way. And I think everything that we do in our working day, you know, some of these mechanisms I would love to make easier. Mm-hmm. But I suppose the reality is that, you know, there's so much accountability now compared to 10, 15 years ago. And I get that, you know, and there's data privacy and there's all these things, and I totally get that. But sometimes making some of these mechanisms easier would just save time to give me more time out of the office talking to people and, you know, and helping, as I would say. But I suppose the other thing would be to, you know, as I say, we are in the sector that I'm working. I'm predominantly working with, you know, older people. I mean, what is old anyway? But, you know, people over 65, which in my view really is still really young, like really young. I think, you know, when we think about people in their 90s, that's when we start to think, oh, you know, that's an older person. Mm-hmm. I would like to see, you know, I suppose just people across the board having the same kind of access to, you know, treatments and therapies, and a kind of almost that bigger viewpoint of, you know, we should all live in a completely equal and just society, which we know we don't. And that is very sad. And I think more and more has come out during the pandemic of who in our society has been kind of hit the most, you know. Yeah. And that actually really disturbs me. You know, the more I read about it and the more I, you know, read books about it, and how that gap between the poor and the wealthier is kind of, you know, there's a larger divide. I don't know if that's gone off the point, but that is what I kind of feel. If I had a magic wand, I would love to just maybe share the wealth of the 1%, you know, bring it down a little bit more, scatter it out, you know, so that everyone had an opportunity to, you know, it isn't all about college. It isn't all about going to university. You know, we're not all designed to do that, but it's about how can we be supported and facilitated to be the best people that we can be? And what can we give back to society?
Yeah.
And how will it make us feel? And also, I suppose, how can we ensure that we are paid properly for that? You know, whether that's an apprenticeship, a practical apprenticeship. I mean, I know apprenticeships come in all forms these days, and they're not just for, you know, younger people at all. So, you know, it's about really finding out what you want to do and not giving up. You know, you can have your 5 minutes and go, oh, this is a disaster, this hasn't worked, but there's always a solution. And every day I hit a challenge or a new problem that I've not encountered before, you know, years ago I might go, oh my God, you know, I was kind of freak out about it, but like I don't really anymore, because I just always think there is a solution to everything, and there is. So so yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, I think the kindness thing and sharing the wealth and making everybody a bit more equal, and people, you know, sharing that 1% with the other 99, I think would benefit everybody. So my final question is, if you have a bit of advice to a young person watching this, what would it be?
Oh, very good one. I would say don't compare yourself to others. I think that's a really big one. I know I did it when I was in secondary school, and you know, for a whole host of different reasons. You know, and especially when it kind of gets to exams, you know, people may not come across as competitive, but when results come out, kind of thing, it's like there seems to be a bit of a divide. So I would say, don't compare yourself to others. Do your own thing. Don't give up. And I know that sounds really cliche. You know, none of us kind of, you know, are happy, smiley, la 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 la, all day long, living on a cloud. You know, that's ridiculous. However, if one path doesn't work, there will be another path.
Yeah.
And that particular path will lead you to kind of, it's almost like following your destiny. You know, it's the Hansel and Gretel and the crumbs through the forest almost. I mean, hopefully not to the witch's cottage, but, you know, okay, bad example. But, you know, we all have our own pathway of breadcrumbs, and, you know, and it will just work out. But I think the other thing I would say is, don't sit back and wait for things to happen, because it won't. Like, it literally won't. You have to get up off your bottom and get out there and, you know, start, even if it's not where you actually want to be, it's a starting point. And actually, I suppose, being grateful for even having a starting point, because actually when you look around, not everyone has a starting point. So being able, you know, if we're physically able to get up out of our bed in the morning, even if we don't have something, you know, actually planned for later that day, let's try and make something happen.
Yeah.
What can I do today that by the time I go to bed tonight, I can look back going, yeah, I've made something of that day. Even if it was a 5-minute conversation on a phone, you know, something. Get up off your bum and do it, I would say.
Well, I think that's great advice. And I want to say thank you so much. It's always a joy to speak to you, Kelda.
Oh, thank you, Lou. I loved it.
And I will definitely see you soon, hopefully at some point, face to face, which would be great. So again, thank you so much for your time, and I will see you soon.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me, Lou.
Bye.
Bye.